Okay. Okay. So
Hi, Sebastian Rüger, my friend from Cologne, actor and active in comedy, right? Quite a bit of comedy that you're doing.
In the widest field, yeah. And yeah. I guess people not from Germany would I don't know if they would call it comedy. We don't call it comedy, but you know, you have to have these drawers to put to boxes to put things into. So yeah.
So what would you call it? What you do?
Oh well, we struggled a long time finding, you know, a good brand for it. So for years we said our duo. Okay, we have a duo. I'm a two-piece with an old friend from I met at acting school, and we immediately saw, okay, this guy wants to do a little bit more, something different than the normal theater acting and stuff. So after 10 years later, we got back together again and started this duo called Ulan and Bator. Ulaanbaatar is the capital of Mongolia, so we are Ulan and Bator. And what we do is, for years we said we do theater in the form of jazz with the expression of comedy, which is quite long term, but now we call it crazy cabaret. So, which doesn't mean that we dance because cabaret and the rest of the world is cabaret, but in German it's cabaret. And cabaret is a very German form of political comedy, satire. We somehow we started with Ulan and Bartur, planning actually nothing, just wanting something to do on our own. And at the time we were in Cologne starting it, there was this gold digger, this gold rush situation of stand-up comedy coming up in Germany. So there was a lot of demand for new acts. So we got invited. So, and this is where we started. And we've always been right from the start, we were the weird ones, the strange ones, but somehow we kept up afloat, and now we're there for 21 years. This is our 21 year we're doing this. Last year, actually, we wanted to celebrate our 20th anniversary with, I don't know, big shows and inviting old friends and colleagues and stuff. But of course, this couldn't happen because of COVID. So, yeah.
21 is 3 times 7, so that's much more important than just 20.
I know, yeah.
just kidding. Yeah, so
I don't know if it's a joke because Robert Fripp counts always in 7, isn't it?
I don't know. A lot of people do.
Yeah.
Hey, you said that when you started Ulan and Bator with your friend, what's his name?
Yeah, Frank Smeebies. Yeah. Frank. Yeah.
So when you started that with Frank, and you guys kind of, and you said like you didn't just want to do like the regular kind of acting or theater acting. So can you tell me a little bit, because like I have really very little to do with acting, or I don't have an insight into what acting actually is, or how kind of like actors, like, or most actors define it for themselves. Is there, what can you tell us about that?
Well, we actually, what we wanted to do is to combine the things that that we as individuals bring onto the table, which in my case and in Frank's too was a little bit more than just wanting to be an actor working in the theater field and maybe doing television or film or stage work. Frank, like me, is a drummer. and he did a lot of he wrote texts and was good with words, and I'm drawing a lot, so I had my fingers in all kinds of different fields of creativity. So and we wanted to do more than just playing other people's theater pieces and saying words others have written. We wanted to do our own thing. So, and this university that we've been on, this school, is the Folkwang School, which is a big university combining all different kinds of arts, which was the reason that I wanted to go there. I was living in Berlin at the time, and the funny thing is actually that I got into acting to begin with, because it was not my first thing I wanted. I was doing creativity. The first thing I started was drawing in my life. Then drumming came along, and actually, in my family, most of the people maybe I think thought, okay, he's going to do something with comics or something. My friends who I was making music with were sure, okay, he's going to study drums. And when the time came to think, okay, after school, after the Abitur, what do you want to do? I thought, okay, what do I want to do? And the answer was, I want to know the rules for all of these arts and learn them within myself, which would be acting. And of course, I brought something onto the table and acting already. Of course, I've always been the class clown, something like that. And I was, always the funny guy, stuff like that. But actually, it was a quite conscious decision, one of the rare conscious decisions in my life, to say, okay, where do I find the answers to that could apply to all of the different kinds of arts, to music, for painting, drawing, whatever. And
so you're saying that acting is sort of like you could say like a universal. It's the universal study of performance, or how would you say that? Because like if you're a composer writing music,
yeah,
you don't really need to act, right? For example, if you're not performing as
if
right,
you're not
or
performing, yeah.
Is there more to it? I'm asking because I want to understand, because like I can see that maybe a lot of self-improvement, let's say, or like self-searching happens
Yeah,
when you're
yes,
actually
yeah.
studying acting, right?
Of course, the composer doesn't perform himself, but I think the paths he's following while composing would apply to one of the actor too, or the theater producer or the theater, right? Because
Okay.
you're always telling a story. There's always a dramaturgy. There's always sort of drama, whatever it is. If it is in a painting or in a piece of music or on stage, and to perform as an actor on stage, of course, gives you a feeling of you have to have a certain kind of musicality, as the musician has to understand what he's telling more than just the instrument.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so tell me about how, so what, I think it's awesome. Like you said, it's like one of the few conscious decisions you took. And it's funny because I would say the same about me choosing to study psychology.
Yeah.
So were you, when you got there, let's say, and it all started, were you would you say that you were prepared for it, or were you surprised? Like what kind of happened? How was it? Especially like the first year, maybe.
The first 2 years, actually, I had some trouble there. Because what I just said, that I wanted to be more, also different things than the usual actor, which I hope doesn't sound too pretentious, because it sounds like, oh, he wanted to be better or something. It's just what I was interested in. And well, and there was this exam in the middle of these 4 years, and they said, well, there's some trouble there. Actually, they said, well, you better stop doing it. You're not too sure about what you're doing here. And which, looking back, is quite funny, because at least in my class actually was quite a funny class, because looking back, I'm one of the few people who kept on doing what I learned there. And the and I said, of course, they said, well, you can repeat the exam, and you could apply again. And I changed I got a different teacher, who gave me back the fun of acting, the fun of playing, because at the time there was a sort of very psychological thing going on in the from the teachers and professors, and they sent me onto this trip to be real, and I think everyone knows, you can ask yourself, like, and I got into the spiral, not trusting anything. When am I real? When am I real? When am I real? Oh, I have this feeling. No, it's not real. It's not real. And what they saw is, of course, someone who's not sure about anything he's doing. And then I got a different teacher, and he gave me back the fun of playing, the fun of acting, which is acting, which is being easy about what you do and have the fun of performing. And then it happened that they said, wow, my goodness, it's so great, what happened? And this was a huge lesson, because my thought when I took the repeating exam, and they were also excited about what I've learned and the development stuff. And I thought, actually, I'm doing what I was doing when I applied here in the first place. And this was a big lesson. This was a big lesson for life, because, this was like, okay. So, but the great thing about the school was that all different kinds of there were all different kinds of arts, music, classical music, classic composers, new music, electronic composers, dance, of course. Pina Bausch is coming from there. Miming, pantomime, acting, dance, everything. And when this university was founded, there was this thought, this motto, that all the arts under one roof, learning from each other, and performing, working with each other. And this was somehow what. So I was very lucky to be there, because this was what I was interested in. And I'm pretty sure that Ulan and Bator wouldn't be like it is, or maybe wouldn't be happening at all, if I wouldn't have met Frank there at this certain school. We have because I was learning so much from all the other from the jazz guys. They would have let me drum lessons from Spiri Karas, which I haven't heard before until I was there, but he was some jazz giant, and he gave me one lesson about how to play that right, or I don't know. I took part in some dance lessons with Malu Airaudo, who was a dance professor there, and she was from the Pina Bausch ensemble. And I was very proud when there was the situation when me and other acting or musical students were allowed to take part in one lesson with all the other dancers, and there was this task of just running in a circle through the whole room as fast as possible, but as quiet as possible. And for some reason, I managed to do it the best. And she said, shh, 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 shh. Look at him. And all the other dancers were looking at me. And she said, he doesn't have a good plie, but he has a feeling for dance. And it was like, da-da, stuff like that. So stuff like that happened there. And another thing that is of big interest, of interest here talking to you, is that there were also modern composition students there. And sometimes they would go to actors and ask them to perform their pieces with them, because the regular singers were asking what do we have to sing, what's the note, but it wasn't about that. It was about the intention. It was about what an actor does, but within a musical composition. And I took place. Sorry when my English gets a little bit fuzzy sometimes. I'm a little bit excited.
It's okay. That's okay.
I took part in a 3-piece with the funny name. I asked yesterday about it. It was the most funny modern piece about it, which the name of it was, just a sec, L'absence for 3 moving players and 24 Bagatellen. What's the English word for Bagatellen? I don't know. And actually, this was from one composer there who wanted to actually a parody about new composition. So what he did was to make up some rules about creating the partitur,
the score, yeah,
the score, in, I don't know, within 5 minutes, and maybe it was in 4 or 5 acts or something, and we had to create it, and there was the big clock running for 5 minutes or 3 minutes or something, and at the beginning of every stage, it started with Xing a glass of vodka or something, and then we would create a score out of reading. We had to write something down, like we had journals on the table, magazines, and we had to write down page 17, line 21, 3 last words or something, and give this to the next one, and we exchange that, and we had to read that out and to find that out, and then we had other rules in the way to perform them or do strange kind of things. You can imagine what. I was never again I was so drunk like after this performance. It was hell, but it was big fun. It must have been quite a sight.
Yes. So
So
basically, I mean, what you just described is sort of what I would call performance art,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And you know, like what I like about what you're describing is so basically kind of like you were educated within a structure, you know, the institution, the
yeah,
university there, where you had influences from all the arts, and where it's very like where it was a very eclecticistic kind of like approach um, to studying performance, let's just say, or you could call it acting or whatever. Um, and you know, I think that in particular at the end of the last century, that was really a really big thing, at least in Germany,
mm,
where it was before. I don't know, it was the same for you, but before like the master's and bachelor system kind of was introduced into the universities.
yeah,
I don't even know if they do that in acting schools or something, but
mm,
so there was like this kind of like curricula or curriculums
mm,
that had grown over like 100 or 200 or 300 years, and sort
yes,
of like everything came together. And I can very clearly see that in your especially in Ulaanbaatar, what you guys are doing there,
mm,
because there's so much like so many things that also like from a musical standpoint are very impressive, right? So you have sort of like a combination of like the totally free side of things where you're making
mm,
up things, where you're improvising, but you
yeah,
also have these like long phases of speaking in sync and stuff
yeah,
like that. So that it's like the whole range of you know like learning things by heart, improvisation, lots of moving, lots of, as you say, like lots of things that look like dance, um, and also improvisation within the movements, right? It's not that you have like fixed choreographies necessarily, but you do. I
we
know you do, but like for example, the chairs
the chair
thing,
thing, yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
for
yeah, yeah,
example,
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
I kind of like see all of that coming together,
mm,
and it's interesting that you say that you actually went on to study with the idea of bringing your creativity into what you're doing. So basically, you're as you say, you're not just like you're not just an interpreter of somebody else's
mm.
work, but you already had a vision for creating your own body of work somehow.
Yeah, in a way, but till I got there, it took almost 10 years. I was doing the regular theater work for 8 years because I wanted to do it the right way. I wanted to work in the field that I learned, and I had some
Yeah.
fun doing it. I had really good times, but at a certain point, this professionality within the German theater system, which is actually, of course, which is one of the uh, of the best in the world when it comes to supporting theater by the government. You know, you can work there as an actor and have contracts like yeah, normal contracts without any danger of of course you can sometimes they're for a short time and stuff, but when you're there it's not this hire and fire thing. The government in Germany does a lot for culture. So
Hmm.
but of course these structures create um, um, their own cliches. There, it can get a little bit lazy after a while. A little bit, you have to fit in there. It can be a bit bureaucratic, and uh, well, and you could also say when I got to feel to the challenge to fight within the system, I thought, okay, this is not what I want to have. It's not satisfying enough to turn into this person who fights his way through this shit, you know.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, if it's this, I have enough ideas on my own, which are waiting to be created and turned into reality. So I took the leap and got together with Frank, and we started something which turned into Ulan and Bato, which actually was sort of a joke in the beginning, and here we are.
So
yeah.
you said like for about 8 years you were part of that regular theater scene, and like give me some more background here. So what kind of work? How much did you work? Like how many shows did you play when you were employed as an actor? Is this like every weekend, or is it more
No,
than that? Or
it's more than that. It's more than that. This is a quite strict. If you're lucky enough to have a role or to be, okay. I was on acting school. I made my degree there, and then I started acting. I got a role in the West Side Story in Düsseldorf, and which was really the West Side Story to me was quite important as a kid. So which is a funny thing that somehow the life is cycle and cycle within cycles, and sometimes things come back and dreams come true, and to play the role of action, he's the bad guy, he's the one. I had to sing Cool and Officer Krupke and all this kind of stuff, which really was an important thing to me as a kid, listening to this album and having seen it on TV. So, and this director, he said, well, I'm beginning a new sort of theater director job within one city theater in Osnabrück. Do you want to come? And I said, okay, I go there. So I was there for 3 years and was in a quite good position of one of the, I had some good leading parts in some theater pieces, but this was quite demanding after a while. Talking about numbers, you mean how many performances you play? Well,
the reason why I'm asking is like because I don't think that at least I'm not aware of like an actor in Germany what kind of workload that is, what that means for your life. If it's like just like any regular job, or if it's
it can be, of course. Everything can be quite. I was feeling bad about this some years later when I got to one of the elder colleagues and asked him, at a beer in the cantina afterwards. Lots of alcoholics in the theater world, and sitting there, and I said with some bad conscience, man, I have the feeling I get this, while performing, I have this high of, wow, this is what you do, once a week or every 2 weeks. And he was looking at me and said, what? That often? You're lucky. So of course, it's everything you do repeatedly in the same setting can become a I say cliche, or no, cliche is the wrong word. Yeah.
So how was
but the word
go on, sorry.
Yeah, but the workload, I'm bad with memory anyway, and quite bad with numbers, but I would say if you play you rehearse a big piece like Die Räuber or something, I don't know, like Trainspotting. I was in the first official theater version of Trainspotting in Germany, and I was playing Mark Renton on a small stage, but it was in Osnabrück. And it's a weird thing. You rehearse this stuff for 6 weeks or maybe 2 months, and then you perform it, I don't know, 15, 20 times or something, and within one season. And if it's successful, it will be repeated the next season. And this is the feeling that I have right now about memorizing it, but which today is really strange to make an effort to work for something and then perform it only 20 times, when now I know that you know it too, the stuff really gets good sometimes after years, when you know what you're doing.
Yes.
And this is such a sacrilege. One of the theater colleagues said, actually, it should not be the premieres who would be the spectacle, you know, the celebrated performance. Actually, it should be the last performance of a piece that when everyone knows what he's doing and it's really settled in, and this is what you should celebrate and see.
Yes.
But yeah. So, but of course, you don't only have one role. You have very often you have different roles and different pieces. So actually, you can be busy all the week through. And sometimes you have, if you do in the Christmas season, if you're doing the Christmas theater piece for the whole family, sometimes you have 2 to 3 performances a day on the weekends and stuff, and it can be quite demanding. So yeah.
Yeah, so the like learning text, right, is something that is kind of fascinating to a lot of people, and also to me, I have to say, because you know, obviously I'm very good at learning music. And I can remember music very, very well because I have my ways, right? So text can be, which I mean, like I'm saying this, can be quite abstract in a way, even though it's very concrete, right? Like you could kind of like just even learn the order of the letters, right? And not just the words or the sounds. So, but what I want to understand is, like, when you're learning text, is the context of how you act the text, right? Is that always part of it?
Good question, because if you have the context already, you're defining the acting itself while you learn the text. But this, of course, has to be developed as you work on stage. Of course, so you learn a text and you know what the piece is about. You know what this role is going through, and of course you already have your own vision about it, and how you want to perform and how you see the role. And but this doesn't always have to be as the director sees it, or what this specific director wants to do with the piece. And sometimes you can have too strict vision of how you want to do a piece. Actually, the reason why I left theater was actually one big misunderstanding, which was a big lesson in general about theater. And if I would have gone through this and stayed at the regular theater, this would have become a better city theater actor or whatever. But there was this one piece which I saw in a different staging from a different director. It was Tango by Mrożek. And this theater piece was really fascinating, because it was from the 60s. It was about the author he foresaw what the youth revolution of 68 would bring, and he was imagining, okay, what's when the revolutionaries from today who are against the old structures, what happens if they get old and they have kids. And my role was it's all playing in one house with a family, and actually it's all you would say old hippies, and and there's this young guy who wants to have rules again. He wants to be, he's the conservative guy who's fighting against his hippie parents and stuff. And this piece is from middle of the 60s. So, and I saw this in one theater, and it was like, wow, this theater piece is fascinating, and I'd love to play this role. So when I went to this bigger theater, and this came up on the schedule, I said, well, I want to do this. And I had this vision of this, how I saw it. But this director who wanted to do this piece, he wanted to tell a whole different story. He despised everything actually these hippies stood for. And I was interested in this, in the psychology of this young character. Looking back from today, I can understand that he had some that was pretty. I was too occupied and too busy with myself, which I was younger than today, and not so experienced. But this was a hard lesson, because I tried to do it my way, to sneak in of how I saw the role, and at the same time to fulfill what the director wanted, which led to something not so good on stage. And this was actually a sort of dream coming true within the theater world, but it was dissatisfying for me. It was disappointing. And this was the beginning of the end for me too. And I said, well, okay, then I'm leaving here. So I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, it's good, because like I asked about the learning the text right first. So
yeah. So okay.
No. But I totally get it. So I understand it now. So like if you sort of start building the text into a way that you would act, let's say, it may clash with what the others want, what the others do, like a particular director, and that obviously would also then potentially be a problem, and you would almost have to relearn the text, if you know what I mean.
Exactly,
like, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in theater, it's of course you have this way of acting for theater, which is at a certain point is, in my view, quite the opposite of playing for camera, for television, or for film, because on stage you learn that you have to sort of emphasize, to make your voice bigger, your gestures bigger, to play for the last row in the theater, which is sort of really poisonous for acting, for the camera, because to this day I'm not happy with seeing myself with acting for camera. To this day I'm trying to, you have to put the row which is in front of you, the 50th row, inside of yourself, and you really just have to think stuff. This sounds like a trope, but it really is true. And even if you only think it, sometimes the stuff you do with your face is still too big. I'm always too big for the camera. So, but But I did some television and film work, and I took some lessons and some workshops. And one of the teachers said that if you're learning text for television, and actually this would apply for theater work too, because it brings you back to this level. You just learn the text without any
context or
context, without any attitude or something. Is maybe to learn it, and then you repeat it in this way, and then you repeat it in a different way, and then he said, well, and sometimes just sing the text, sing it, to get rid of the of repeating the same stuff, because if you're repeating, it's not in the moment.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's interesting. Like, how do you do that? Like, if you are playing, as you said, you play like the 8th repeat of the piece, right, on stage, and you kind of like know the text, and you know that it would be possible to go on sort of like an autopilot, and the words could just flow out of your mouth. And like, how important is like the attention, let's say, that you can give during the performance, I mean, to your performance? Like, it's an interesting question for me, because like, as a musician, where there's no preconceived meaning to a melody that I'm playing, right? But when you have words and you're starting to pronounce them slightly differently, to kind of like, so how I mean, this is kind of like going back to what I asked before, like when memorizing a text and then we're repeatedly playing a piece, a play, do you memorize the inflections, or is that something that is it important to keep that variable even, because the nights are different, maybe the vibes from the audience are different? You know what I'm saying? I mean,
I would say that you, within a theater piece or a scene, a scene has a sort of role within a theater piece. Within a scene, a certain line has a role of fulfilling, the big thing. And so you have some freedom to be variable within a certain context, but of course you have to be aware that how you play it could affect, it has consequences.
I mean, which is very obvious in punchline for a joke, for example.
Of course, yes. But of course, you can ruin with a slightly different infliction or a way of expressing something, what you actually wanted to do, or what the director wanted, or even what you yourself wanted. And to find out what you're working on within a theater piece or a scene, and that all people involved are playing. I would say everyone in the group has to play the same song. Actually, I think it's not so different. It's not so different from. I'm pretty sure that I could imagine that there are nights when you would say, well, I don't know, well, actually, this is the quiet part, but what's going on with Pat today? He's much too loud or something. This is the quiet part, you know what I mean? So
Yes, yes, yes.
yeah. So
I think by the way, I think that's what he's thinking about me most of the time.
of course, it's always the other one. Of course. Can he leave that fuzz box out at this something like that? Yes, of course. And I mean, and that's the big art, doing music, but also doing theater. That everybody on stage is playing the same scene, and to am selben Seil ziehen, pulling the same rope. So and to find out how much freedom you have within a scene or within a piece, and to feel free in it, and to be true to the moment and react to the other actor, or to the audience or whatever, and yet keep on playing the intended piece, and what you wanted to perform. Well, that's the
Yeah,
high art of it.
yeah, it's fascinating. So
Mm.
let me ask further at this point. So when you
Yeah,
are
please.
in the role, and you play, and you get in sort of like the flow, and you say like everybody's playing the same song, and it's going very well, say. And again, like I know that there's a wide range of responses you can give here, but like I'm interested in if there's ever like the experience of sort of like becoming the character that you're playing, like where you're kind of forgetting yourself. Is that, and if that happens, I mean, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Like, is like being sort of dissociated and meta to your own playing, is that good for you? Is that bad? Like, what kind of experience do you have with that?
Well, first of all, I would say, I can only speak for myself as an
Yeah,
actor,
yeah.
and I don't know if did I have ever really lost myself on stage. I think this is sort of. I heard that Daniel Day-Lewis left the stage during. I don't know. This is such a such a myth. I don't know if it's even true, but there's this myth about Daniel Day-Lewis losing himself in Hamlet and leaving the stage, going out on, leaving the theater, leaving the building, and just walking around the street. I don't know. I heard something like that. I would say this could not happen to me. But you're not losing yourself like that. You maintain this I maintain this looking at myself. It's actually, I'm not joking. It's maybe after this podcast, someone will send me to an institution when I say that, but I can look at me during a performance and thinking, you're going to mess up now, you're going to mess up now, you're watching yourself, you shouldn't be doing that. And I perform quite well.
Yeah,
Be honest,
like
I'm asking you in return. Can you watch yourself like, okay, oh, they're fine tonight. Okay, do-do-do-do-do-do. Can you play frame by frame, watching yourself like this? And it just happens. I know musicians have muscle memory. It's a little bit, but muscle memory is not so different from what actors are doing.
Yeah, no. I mean, I have been observing the development of my mental processes, let's say, when I'm playing shows, right? And I've told this to many friends before. Like there was a time when we were, I think Stigman was playing both Breathless and Stravinsky's Firebird in the same set.
Yeah.
And I remember I was playing Breathless, where the middle section is kind of like something where I need total concentration, right? But then I was realizing like sometimes I was playing that middle section, and like my mind was already playing Stravinsky in my head.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
It was already like so, and it was like so like for me the first step was sort of to kind of accept, or you could, like some people call it, like silence the voices in my head while I'm performing. Because I didn't want like the criticism all the time, right? So I just perform. I was able to kind of like quiet down, and I could just perform. And once I was getting good at that, suddenly there were other parts that started to perform. But as I said, sometimes they were starting to perform different pieces. It's like at the
Wow.
same time. And then like the task was to kind of like get that under control again, right? And just to learn to say, and it's funny because it's some sort of, for me, it's some sort of internal process of loving communication, right? So when
Yes.
I when I
Yeah.
when I hear
Yeah.
a voice like that come up, I kind of address it and say, "Hey, how are you? And great to see you again. You're lovely. I love you very, very much. Maybe,
Yeah.
can you sing this to yourself, just like, and maybe in 10 minutes, when the song actually is on, then let's do it.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's really like that, like, so,
Yeah.
and that's also why I asked you about this, like, and how far your control self, let's say, is active, and
Mm.
what it does when you're
Mm.
performing, and in particular the Ulaanbaatar stuff as well, which
Yeah.
can be very,
Yeah.
very challenging, right? And so,
I learned to accept this because, of course, I was judging myself too. You should. What are you thinking? You cannot think about something else and watch yourself, and even teasing yourself. Ah, you're going to mess up now. And but now I accept it because experience tells me it's working anyway. It can be quite good performance anyway. Now I'm accepting it like a part of myself, and even maybe it is part of entering the zone, you know. um I made the experience that for a long time I can't say I don't have dropouts on stage, like completely losing it. I don't have that too often. um but and now, well, of course, you're getting older and stuff, and things don't get any easier body wise, memory wise, and stuff like that. But uh my experience, so in the over the last decades, was it always came when I was too sure about it, or maybe didn't think about it at all, and it was completely unexpected. What I want to say is, when I was scared, like, now I'm going, now it comes to the heavy part. I'm going to lose it, thinking while I'm speaking the lines that are approaching it, and then they come out. And it never happened then, but it happened then when I thought, okay, maybe, uh, okay, tonight it's fine, business as usual, or something like that.
Mhm.
So, but
So how do
yeah.
you deal with, say, if your partner, like Frank,
Mhm.
or in a theater play, like
Mhm.
somebody else, has a problem with remembering the text, for example, right? Like, because like
Mhm.
what you just said reminded me of, like, okay, yeah, I have like my own world, I'm responsible, and if I'm too sure of what I'm doing, maybe I can mess up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
also sometimes it's that somebody else messes up, and I sort of have the feeling that it is also possible as a performer to support the others not to mess up somehow, right? Because like even my thoughts about what somebody else does can make them mess up.
Of
And
course.
I
Yes.
don't I and
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, in music it kind of like makes sense, because like maybe like I'm not playing perfectly in time then, and then I can throw somebody off, or
Mhm.
but like
Mhm.
how does it work in acting?
Of course, you always can support the other by, if you're performing the piece for a time. Of course, the lines of the other actor too, and of course you can make hints, or Like, didn't you want to show me the door? Something like that. Uh, of course, and of course, within a theater piece, you have to remember what is the intention of the scene and where does it. It sometimes can be very crucial. There's this. I mean, this is one of the most. This is a quite famous theater trope or joke told in Germany. I guess it's known worldwide in the theater field, maybe. But there was this scene when someone had to kill someone else in some classical, I don't know, Shakespeare or Schiller, whatever, and he has to shoot him, and it's not working, and or he forgot the pistol or something, but he has to kill the other guy. And if he's not dead, the whole theater, the whole theater evening is not working. Yeah. So he took his shoe, threw the shoe at him, and screams into the audience, "The shoe was poisoned." So of course, yeah, I always have to think about what happens if what I said now, sometimes it's not said, or sometimes you jump ahead. This just happened to me the other day. I think I jumped ahead in the text, and while you realize, okay, I jumped ahead, leaving. While you say the text, you realize, okay, what did I leave out? What's important? I have to somehow improvise it back into the piece again, so it makes sense. Stuff like that. And but to help the other is you always can. Of course, you can realize if the other has this problem or is jumping ahead. You have to, this is where you have to stay alert and awake to, to play the same scene.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I never thought about it that way. So you sort of ask the actor, if something goes wrong, you sort of like have to find a creative solution that makes the whole evening make sense again.
Yeah, yes, of course.
Yeah, well, and that's quite something. I mean, like in music, it's performing a piece of music and you're kind of like getting out of sync or something. Like all you have to do is try to get back in sync, which may sound super ridiculous to the audience when you're trying to do that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But it's not something that's going to take. I mean, like here's an interesting thing for you. Like earlier this year, we with Stickman again, we played a piece called "Hide the Trees," which was in our set for like 10 years, right?
Yeah.
And Tony completely forgot it. So we started to play it, and he couldn't remember his part at all. Really, at all.
Wow.
And we played through the whole piece. We did play through the whole piece without him ever finding his part. And I'm still not sure if we should have probably just stopped it.
But is there a recording of that? Is there a recording of
it? I think there may be a recording of that. Yeah.
I
haven't listened to
it. Did he play something at all, or did he just?
No, he did play something, but he couldn't remember the rhythm or the the. It was really it was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
But having said that, like something like that, even something like that, it's just a scene, let's say, in the show, but it doesn't have to make sense in the whole. So it's not as crucial as in a play.
It's a different thing within play. That's true. Yeah. There are parts which could be left out or something, but maybe without destroying the whole evening. But there was this famous story about two theater giants in in Germany, and there's a lot of affection within the theater world for soccer, for football, and there was this, I don't know, there was some theater piece where two of the big theater giants in Germany were playing a piece together, and it was the night of, I don't know, some finale within the Bundesliga, or maybe even soccer world championship or something, and they were so fucked up that they had to perform. so they beforehand they went there and said, okay, we're gonna cut this out, we're gonna cut this out, we're gonna cut this out, and they spared themselves, I don't know, even 15 minutes or something, where they just decided it's not it's not that important for the whole piece, we do it like that, and so we can watch soccer a little bit early on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's funny because like we could do that like with music. We could
Of course,
easily
yeah.
just leave, but it's very tough to do. Like on the most recent, yeah.
Yeah, but I had the same thing. I mean, for us, we have our classics too with Ulan and Bator, of course. Maybe I just should say that for people who don't know us, it's not a whole theater piece that we're performing, but it's actually a lot of weird mixture of different sketches, songs, scenes, stuff like that. So and of course we have sort of our hits, which we, you know, the old songs, and for many years we were, Frank and me were both quite sure there are pieces, there are scenes, sketches, whatever, we don't have to repeat ever again because muscle memory, because, you know, we know them. But now, and after I don't know, 20 years, no, they're not there anymore. Recently, we just, I don't know, we tried to improvise something on stage, and for, I don't know, if my life would have depended on it, I wouldn't know what to say. So I just improvised a little bit and then just backed out of it again. But we have the same thing too, but it's not as crucial as within a sort of serious theater piece.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah, and I like coming back to what you were saying at the beginning, like from the get-go, you didn't want to just be that actor, that theater actor, but you wanted to have the creative freedom, and also, as far as I understand, maybe the form, like the formalities of playing a fixed piece, where the like you say, the dramaturgy is kind of like the most important thing. You sort of like have something that is more built from building blocks, and also where the audience is free to draw their own conclusions, to kind of like take their own story home with them. At least that's the impression that I have with Ulan and Bator, right?
Yeah.
So, but when you like recently told me about your solo show that you've just started doing, right? That's something else. Like again, there was like a clear story line in a way. So like something that at the end it needs to make sense, and it comes together in some sort of climatic cleverness, let's just call it, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, but like, you know, in a way, you can also take some of the pressure out of the performance by finding a form that allows for more freedom, and that allows for mistakes to be not devastating, but for mistakes to be inspiring even. Right?
Yes, that's true. But we don't have that much improvisation anymore within the Ulan and Batov context. We did it for some years, we tried it, but funnily, Frank and we have sort of different way of improvising. So and it wasn't working good enough to keep it in. Actually, sometimes I think it's fair to say that we're planning for a new show, which should have premiere in 24 or something. And I recently just said to Frank, actually, it would be time to bring back, these small windows of time within the evening, within the show, to bring back the freedom but within a certain structure, or to have within a certain improvisation points that you have, to know. And I'm really looking forward to it, because I'm pretty sure that with all what we learned in the meantime, and all this, sort of perfectionist way that we're working, where even if we would have a bad day and we think we're out of sync and we're not, tight or something, people would still come up and say, "Wow, it's amazing." And but this is what happens when we're really like a married couple on stage for 2 decades now, and it's Frank and me will really know what the other's thinking, and but
let's
yeah.
just the great thing about like the skill set that you guys have. And as you say, like this idea of the old couple, I mean, I can think of interesting things where you can have like one guy actually reciting a text while the other, and I've seen you guys do something like that, but where one of the other could be improvising. Like if it's just like how you react, like just with your gestures, right? Or, with your mimic, your face, right?
Yeah.
Or you could also be free in commenting freely, like. And I don't know, like if you're, it seems to me like it's interesting that now I understand that you are in creating your programs, let's say, like more goal orientated than I thought, right? In a way, like you're planning more things more than I thought, which is cool, which is kind of surprising, because like you make it work in a way that like the audience doesn't know, the audience doesn't know.
Yeah, I mean that's the high art of it, to make it appear easy. And this is why I just recently, as you said, I just had premiere 1 month ago with my first solo show after 20 years of Ulaanbaatar. And it's really like, stepping onto into a new continent within myself, to find a voice for me, being alone on stage. And just the experience of having to learn all the text alone, and to know the keywords and for myself, and not depending on I say something and I don't have to think about the next line, because if Frank answers the right text, it will trigger off my next line, and then maybe just 1 second before I wouldn't have remembered it, so there's some automaticality in it. So and to have this on my own, it was really like a big challenge. So, and I get a new respect for stand-up comedy, because to make it appear like it is, just made up of the moment, just telling the story like we are talking now, but it's all checked punchlines, the build-ups, when to leave, when to leave a pause, when to make a pause, or just making the audience follow your thoughts. My goodness, I'm still so hectic on stage. I'm just had 2 performances, and I'm watching I recorded it on camera, and I think, my goodness, it was so hectic and so it's yeah. And to come back to another thing that you said, that to be emotionally attached, or to be you know, to dissolve within the role, can be quite, can be a good thing, but it can mean quite the opposite performing wise, because what you feel like doing, it can be quite wrong. It can be too, you know, like too hectic or too emotional, or it may be true for the moment, but it's not working for what you actually want to do. So, and to what you said, to have a plan about things, to be goal orientated. Of course, we had a goal right from the beginning with Ulaanbaatar. We were quite aware of, if we, I have to explain this again to the people who don't know us. This is Ulaanbaatar. Yeah, this is a quite old picture of us. And this is still the system, you know, two guys with these strange wool hats. And the older we get, the more the hats are playing for us, because it becomes even sillier. The older our faces get, the more weird it is to have these two guys in their suits and these wool kitty hats. So and we wanted to have, actually in the beginning we wanted to, we tried to make stand-up comedy as a duo. We tried some things in this field and it didn't work at all. We were much too intellectual, and I mean intellectual in the bad way, you know, a little bit, you know, brainy. And I'm honest about this, a little bit like, we're from acting school, we're, you know, we, you know, stand-up, we make a parody about stand-up comedy. You know, we weren't able to deliver one punchline, but thought we could make a parody about stand-up comedy. So, and this arrogance was driven out quite quickly when we tried the first, you know, steps with it, and it didn't work out at all. And then I said, well, let's find a form where we can be everything that we bring onto the table, but it has a, you know, we have a form where we can be everything. It's not linked to one person, to one character, to and whatever we think about in our weird, twisted minds can have a place within that. And these two hats would be the sort of, yeah, the would set the outlines for that. And the outline would be, in the beginning would be, okay, Ulaanbaatar are two extraterrestrials or something. In the beginning, actually, it was quite a sort of Mork from Ork thing, maybe. Two guys who have lived on Earth for some years, you know, checking everything out, watching at humanity, and then come out and say, here we are, and just messing things up. And we knew that the more freedom we have, the more sure we have to be what we are doing. And this is why it took us 7 years to make a full feature, to make a full show. For 7 years, we were doing only mixed shows, you know, short pieces, maybe 10 minutes here, 50 minutes there, 20 minutes, maybe half an hour. But we were really maybe a little bit over reluctant. Maybe we could have done it in 5 years or maybe 4 years, but not before. We really wanted to be sure that we know what we are doing, because it can be everything. But we have to have our own rules. It doesn't mean that they have to be explained on stage or to be seen or understood. It would have been enough if they are felt, if the people look at it and say, It's weird, but I keep watching it. I don't understand what this piece has to do, what this scene has to do with the next one. As we, you've seen, we jump from one scene into the next one, and it doesn't have a story at all. So, and our approach to this was, one friend came up when he saw us the first time, one colleague, and he said, well, your red line, your roter Faden, your thread is off the stage. It's besides the stage. It's there, but it's not happening on stage. We know what we're doing for a reason. You can watch us. Maybe you find it out. If you don't find it out, it doesn't matter. We hope it's funny for you and you're entertained. And if you think about it, maybe you can discover some things, but we leave it to you. Like in a good abstract painting, there's bad abstract painting, and there's paintings that are abstract that give you something, like this dream logic of David Lynch. I don't know. He has a way of doing this, and the world is fascinated, and many people try it and don't have the same feeling for that, because they maybe think you just combine weird stuff in in a strange way. But you have to know what you're telling, and it doesn't mean that you for example, we always have we were quite sure about that we wanted to be positive on stage and what we are telling in the comedy that we have, and the humor that we bring on stage. And we looked around and saw this many stand-up guys and many stand-up comedy who lives on by pointing fingers, ridiculing others, making fun of whatever. And we said we want to try the utopian way of humor. Is it possible to be positive with your humor and maybe and to laugh about the right things? So actually we tried to be woke before that was even the thing. So
that's fascinating. And like you said something really great, or your colleague said that the thread is not necessarily on stage, it's off to the side or something. I can really identify with that about my artistic career, but also like my artistic vision, let's say, right? So for example, what is kind of like again, like speaking about goal orientated stuff, right? So for me, like the punchline, let's say, if we take a joke as an example, right? The punchline doesn't have to happen where the punchline would normally be. The punchline can happen like when people go home and they sleep, they wake up in the next morning and they're eating breakfast. And then
they
suddenly,
say, wow,
then they, oh, wow, right? Or they start laughing then. So that's sort of like how I see my work. Like I don't necessarily want to tell people when their emotions should get triggered. But I want to give them the fodder, the food, so that can happen when it can happen.
Yes. Yeah. We hear that quite a lot, that people say, well, I didn't get it when I was there, but the next day, or when on the way home, when I talked to the others, I said, okay, so it's sort of, where that there are growers in music, this album is a grower, and Ola Nombato definitely is a grower. Yeah,
can be, not a shower.
But I have to say that, of course, one reason that we are still there that we still exist as a duo, and even get we're getting a big sort of award, Deutschen Kabarettpreis, German Kabarett Award for this year, and which is really a good sign, because we're not that we're not remotely successful as the big comedy acts. We're not really fit for camera because it's because it's a duo. This is, for example, people often ask us, why are you why aren't you more on television? The fact alone that we're two people playing a scene is too demanding for television, because well, you have to send in the text sheet, and we have to know when to cut on whom, which is too much work, and which is not, let's say, the modern way of humor, because stand-up, in at least in Germany, is the thing. It's almost only stand-up comedy which counts as comedy. And so, but to get this award, which comes more from the stage world of cabaret and comedy shows, is quite important to us. But the reason that we're still there is that we were always open to make the people stay, to keep our style, to be what we want, how we want to be, to not explain everything, to not say, all these tropes and cliches that many comedians do, and they do it for a reason. I'm not, I know why they're doing it. They do it, they explain, they make the setup for a joke, and to get into the audience's minds in that very moment, to draw them to that joke or whatever they want to tell. Mm-hmm. And we are more from the theater side and like to surprise people. We like to be what's that, to be not that clear and understandable, and which we sometimes consider a little bit boring and foreseeable. At the same time, we were used with this. We didn't always have the good timing that we have today, and we're not that we have to develop and to get good in what we do. And we were not good from the beginning. We had a lot of ideas, but it didn't work out at all. But and many people in the first, 5 to 10 years, it was usual that after the intermission, there would be 10, 20, 30 people would have gone, no matter if there were 35 in the audience. And we tried to and managed somehow to work on keeping our style and keeping our spirit about what we want to do, and at the same time be tight enough, be entertaining enough, be funny enough, and to get the right way of do what we do, and not be too puzzling and send the people out. Of course, we don't want the people to go, for art's sake.
Just congratulations on developing something for decades. I think that is really what is sort of like a lesson, like that I learned, or that we learn when we get older, is to see that the power of not just repetition, as in like doing the same thing over and over again, but like the experience of performing or developing something over such a long time. And as you say, like 21 years, and you get this prize and this award, and it's a wonderful thing. And also, I just want to point out again and like maybe talk about you this a little bit as well. Um, so like you're in your 50s, right? Like yeah, like me. And
55, yeah.
yes, yes. And you have just started doing your solo show. And
Yeah.
I again I want to say congratulations. This is amazing. You know, you're doing it and you're there and it's going to go forward and maybe you'll have 21 years of that at some point too, you know,
I
of
really
your
hope
solo show.
so. I
Yeah.
hope so. I hope so. Yeah, it's fantastic, and I don't want to yeah, I don't want to think about too much. Could I have done it earlier? One shouldn't think like that, but I don't know. I think nobody's completely free of that. But Frank got his solo show 4 to 5 years ago. He was quicker than me. The funny thing is that I was talking about doing a solo show years before him. So, but you know, I take my time in a lot of things. I need my time, and I'm really happy with how the first how it is received, and yeah, you know, being a drummer, and I don't know, I started drumming with, I don't know, it was 6 or 7 years. I started banging on pans and stuff, and I think I had my first drum kit with uh was a children drum kit. I think at my first gespart, you know, 50 Deutschmarks I spent to a really rip off of a children drum kit, and so I started early, but and I did way too little drumming in my life, and I'm really happy to have, you know, incorporated into my show. And I know no other, you know, comedian, whatever, at least I know not in Germany, is on stage with a drum kit. So
Maybe
and stuff like that.
Alf Poyer, maybe.
Maybe Alf Poyer, yes, yeah, he had a drum kit too, yeah, but he's Austrian. He's
Yeah,
Austrian.
he's Austrian.
Yeah,
Hey.
but you're right. You're right. I forgot that. Yeah, he had it. I don't know if he still performs with the drum kit, but anyway, I'm really happy about it, and looking forward to make it more precise, to work out what I want to tell, and to find out, you know, where to put the punchlines. It's such a funny thing. Doing humor on stage together or alone is so interesting, because you think about something being funny for yourself, and you work that out, you write it down, and you tell this joke or whatever, and then nobody's laughing, and the next time people are laughing on the way to the build-up of it more than at the actual punchline. Stuff like that happen. It's mind-blowing. And yeah, because we have worked more in a more abstract theatrical way with Ulan and Bator, and what I'm doing now is a little bit more to the stand-up side, but at the same time using what I learned with Ulan and Bartor is to go into scenes and to act things out in different roles, and then come back to me as a person or stuff like that. So and it's so surprising to find out, you know, how humor works. And it's a good thing to hear that there's not this, you know, this switch. No other elder comedian or cabaretist or whatever would come up and say, this is the way that you do it, because it stays a miracle that even if you have found a right way to perform a punchline, and you're so sure and you worked it out maybe a dozen or 100 times, and then you have the 101st performance and nobody's laughing like in this like when you first performed it and try to find the right way of doing it, and it stays a miracle. It stays a miracle why sometimes things just don't work.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You know, like what I found fascinating in our relationship, right? Like talking,
yeah.
uh, that my kind of sometimes very spontaneous humor, jokes, like how unexpected they were to you. This was just something that I was so surprised about. Uh, that you were really not prepared for this kind of improv that I do. Uh, and
Yes.
I'm just saying that because I found it interesting because you're sort of like a professional in that field, and I just it was just interesting, and I think like because something like that would may even happen if you were playing music with me, you know,
Hmm.
there would be like
We
so
should try that. We should try
yeah,
that. Yeah.
because there's like a sort of playfulness maybe that you still kind of like on the drums you still have it that
Yeah.
I have maybe lost or something or that is not
Hmm.
accessible anymore and you know that's also why I like you know for example compositions where the composer has a part for a professional musician but also a part for somebody who's never actually performed music and you kind of like bring
Okay.
these different worlds together because it creates a really special and unique vibe if you
Yeah.
have if you're combining these colliding worlds you know and that's
Yes.
sort of
Yes.
because
Yes.
you mentioned David Lynch right like
Yeah.
it's something like that you can kind of create a dream world by having worlds collide that seemingly have nothing to do with each other. And I mean, I'm not saying that that's the case about us, but
No, 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 no. I know what you mean. I'm trying to. You're hitting different points, and I try to remember, memorize what. First of all, when you say that you deliver your punchlines with your dry humor, because you have this you just you tell them, and nothing in your voice or the way you
Mhm,
say them is different from how we talk.
yeah.
And to find out that this is your humor is, there's not it's just, me getting to know you
Mhm.
as a person, which I'm very happy about. So I'm so happy and honored to be in this row here as with all these other amazing people. So there's not this, as you just said, you as a professional humorist, just because I'm doing it professionally on stage doesn't take away any insecurity from me about getting to know someone else. And I'm uh, as a private person, I can be quite, I don't know, have this half adult ADHD thing going on, or maybe I don't know, whatever. And I think way too much about things, or maybe take things too serious sometimes. And very often people say, "This was a joke. You don't get it," or something like that, because I was. It's hard for me to understand humor in private life often. Um, Being a professional doesn't help at all. So I know how to make things funny on stage a bit, maybe, or I could help you tell a joke, or
Mhm. Mhm.
stuff like that. But it doesn't
Yeah,
make
you
it
know,
any easier to know. So,
no,
and
it's this wonderful misunderstanding, right? That uh, is, you know, if you have anything to do with psychology, right? It doesn't
yeah,
matter if you're you know, doing uh, perception experiments or whatever. Like people don't even care what kind of psychologist you are, and they believe that you have figured them out as soon as you
Yeah.
see
Oh
them.
my
And
goodness.
like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like it's just not like that, and it's not like that for like really, I guess, like almost any profession. It's like
Mm.
people don't necessarily bring their profession into their private lives, and it's also important that there is this sort of like that professional person and also the private person.
Mm.
And I mean, it's challenging as a, and you know what I mean when I say like as a self-employed person, like where you're
Yeah.
dependent on actually making money doing what you do. It can
Yeah.
sometimes be very difficult to keep the private and the professional uh, sides of yourself separate, right? But
Yeah. Yes.
yeah, and I mean that's really a conversation that we should have some other time. Because believe it or not, we've already spoken for over 90 minutes, way over
Wow.
90 minutes, and it really didn't feel like that at all.
Not at all. And my goodness, yes, there would be so much more. There would be so much more because, for example, what uh, one thing that I wanted to speak about or ask you is or discuss is in my view, there's much too little humor in music of, let's say, prog or
Hmm. Hmm.
and I'd like to start really, practical science on uh, is there does humor belong in prog? Does humor belong in ambient? Is it
Yeah.
possible
Yeah.
to have ambient music which is funny at on one side and at the same time is not doing it on the cost of the ambient side of it?
Yes. Yes.
This
It's
is
a, it's
really
a,
something I'd like to work on.
like my opinion about that is that it really depends on the artistic vision. So, and
Yeah.
um, it's almost like a political statement, right?
Yeah.
So
Mm.
if my personal way of living my artist life, let's say, or if
Yeah.
of creating my works, um, by doing that, I'm sort of like making a political statement, even though I don't intend to make a political statement,
True.
right? So
Yeah. Mm.
and that's why for me, for example, um, being serious in just like you take
Mm.
yourself serious, you take your art seriously.
Mm.
That is important. That really is important. And so the jokes that sort of like would undermine the seriousness of loving yourself or loving what
Yeah.
you do,
Yeah.
I find that destructive.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that I find that destructive.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, like, I know that you're a big fan of Frank Zappa, right?
Mm.
Like for me, like one of the weakest points in Frank Zappa's work was the fact that he sometimes, from my perspective, undermined his seriousness with his humor,
Mm.
which I don't know if it was intentional or not, or whatever. I don't know. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know
I know
much
what you
about
mean.
him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but for me, that makes his music, that makes his work less somehow. And I don't know
Mm.
why. It's my fault. Okay. Like I'm not, but just
It's
saying. So what I'm trying to say is like, if it kind of like works, um, I have no, and I'm trying, at least I'm trying to be funny off stage and positive, and I think
yeah.
I'm sort of like a warm person generally, like which
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes you
Yeah.
wouldn't
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
wouldn't you wouldn't even hear in my music because it can be very
Mm-hmm.
dark or
Mm-hmm.
serious or can sound
Mm-hmm.
cold or something.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that. I like that the things that I do for art do not represent who I am as a person. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really where it would feel awkward for me
Mm-hmm.
to be humoristic in my work. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but am I getting? Do I understand you correctly that it would that you would not want it to be humoristic if it was this kind of Frank Zappa humor, taking away, doubting your own seriousness about it?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so
Yeah.
but so I love this discussion because what would be necessary to be humoristic without doing that? Is there a way of being serious and be humorous anyways? Because, you know, and this is where actually this discussion about me being an actor and creator of theater scenes, and you as a musician, and parts, you know, I feel like being a musician myself, but and I think I think about this a lot. Is it possible to maintain this the seriousness and at the same time maybe be so over serious that it becomes funny? Maybe,
Yeah.
for example,
Yeah.
there's the saying, every good joke contains a catastrophe. And I love, for example, one of my favorite comedy actors of all time is Peter Sellers. Peter Sellers as Inspector Clouseau, because of course he said all this. He had this funny speaking, this French accent and stuff. But the main thing why he was so funny was by developing the humor out of the over seriousness of this guy who thinks he's the biggest. You know, he's so over serious and just wreaks havoc around him. So, and this
that happens to contemporary classical composers without them wanting to do that.
So,
right?
yeah, okay, but they don't want it. But
no,
being,
they don't want it.
Know, to do it intentionally would be interesting, you know.
Yeah.
So, and this is really something that I would like to, and I'm really I agree with you. What you doubt about Zappa's funny side, I understand completely what you mean. I still love his stuff for being, you know, performed so funnily. And, you know, I was a Spike Jonze fan as a kid, you know, and Frank Zappa is Spike Jonze taken to the next level. And, you know, funny sounds and weird lyrics and this highly professional, virtuous playing of music and combining and breaks, you know, breaking to completely different styles. And but this is a quite obvious side of humor. I would like to go further and see, you know, let's say you have a scene which is played very serious, and I think it was in Naked Gun. You know, if two actors play very serious together, and then you have this, you know, this microphone coming into the picture.
Yes.
What is the microphone in the picture? What would this be in a musical context?
Yeah.
And,
you know,
does it have to be obvious, or how subtle can you be? And how subtle would musical humor in this very serious field of ambient or prog be?
So there's Helge Schneider and the Firefuckers playing Whiter Shade of Pale, and which is just like a strange cover version, you could say. But then on the studio version, Helge has the reverb on the vocal, and it's cut off. Like, have you ever
really?
heard that?
Okay. No,
yeah, you need to
I
check that out. So it's that kind of thing. So Helge has done it.
Okay.
I mean,
wow.
obviously Helge has done it because
of
he's
course,
done
yes.
it, you know, right?
Yeah.
But You know, like I think, unfortunately, I have to go soon. But like, what I want to
Okay.
say is, I think your question is amazing, is great,
Mm.
and I think it applies to any kind of emotional, or it's not just humor.
Yeah.
It's like you could say even like, is it can I allow myself to be a totally romantic, or can I allow myself to be totally cerebral about my composition or whatever? Like all of
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
different elements. And there's one guy, like like my biggest idol, Mike Oldfield, who has
Yeah. Yeah.
everything in his music. Like, and
Mm.
there is like, you have like 40 minutes of tubular bells, and then you have the sailor's hornpipe at the end, right?
Mm.
If you remember, like it's really like, there's the seriousness, there's the beauty, there's the through composed, there's the improvised,
Mm.
there's
You're
like
right. Yeah.
everything in there. It's like there's like jokes, there's the caveman, like
Mm.
there's like crazy stuff, and there's a lightness and a heaviness kind of like combined. And so I think it is possible. I think it's
Mm.
possible, and it's something like, I totally agree with you that there is very little art out there, especially in
Mm.
music, that is
Yeah.
kind of like really all encompassing, that is really taking all human emotions and all human experience, and bringing
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
into, I'm totally with you. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so
It
maybe
would be so interesting.
let's do that,
Let's do that. Yeah. I was dreaming about you saying that because, yeah, yeah, really, really. For example, I mean, just, I mean, I'm always laughing my ass off about during Elephant Talk about this.
Yeah.
The sound of this guitar, it's like it. I mean, serious? It's so funny. It's so funny. And I cannot imagine that they intentionally wanted to make it sound like that. And it's funny. So, for example,
Yeah,
so
yeah, it is fun.
even
It
King
is fun.
Crimson had,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it doesn't take anything away from the coolness of the whole track. So, and like with Ulan and Bato, where we would combine things that don't belong together and make, be more subtle and more subtle and more subtle. This is something that I really ponder about a lot. And yeah, I'd like to investigate on that.
Okay, Sebastian, the
Okay,
Bastian.
Marcus. Okay,
Okay.
Marcus.
Sebastian. I I'm thanking you very much. I'm actually being interviewed about the Mata Atlantica album in 1 minute. So
In 1 minute. Okay,
that's
man.
why I have to say goodbye. But
Okay.
it was a pleasure, and I've been waiting for this opportunity for over a year. So thanks for
I know
finally
I
being
kept,
available.
I know, thanks for having the patience with me. I hope you understand. I thought of, I could not do it before my solo. I just, and
Yes.
and now that it happened, I know why. And it's true. It's
And
different now to
Your
speak.
English is great.
Thank you
Really
very
is.
much. Thank you.
Very much.
Ah, we are
Okay.
great. We are great.
Yes, thanks. Thank you, my friend. Bye bye for now.
Bye.
We'll be in
Okay.
touch. Ja.
Thanks for having
Tschüss
me, man.
und Dankeschön.
Bye.
Dankeschön.
Tschüss. Auf
Bye.
bald.
Tschüss.